This story begins by introducing us to Ben, who is trying to stay active despite the passing years. But something else seems to be bothering him, and when his wife calls him, he sadly reveals that the crew has been changed and that he does not know when he will be back. All we can hear for the moment is that his son is seriously ill and needs him at his side. But that morning, we see him arrive at the airport, where we also meet a rather unpleasant man who plugs his phone in to charge inside his suitcase. Yet in a close-up, we are shown that his cable is giving off sparks. A few minutes later, we learn that Ben is part of the cockpit and one of the main pilots, and his partner is Rich, who is close to retiring but does not want to give up his uniform because it helps him with the ladies. While they board the plane, we can see the man's suitcase go through the whole normal process, but when it passes the inspection, the officer is too busy playing with his phone and does not notice the faulty charger inside it. After that, the boarding process is quite normal. All the passengers get on the plane and it slides down the runway. Ben carries out all the emergency checks, since his job as first officer is to make sure Rich is in good shape to fly the aircraft. But even though Rich is old, he is very capable and can still fly this thing as if it were a toy. Among the passengers, we meet Lily and Sam, two gamers who have just won a tournament, and Lily handed Sam a letter, but he has not had the courage to read it. Even though the red envelope and the little heart on the cover make us guess what it is about, Sam is an expert at strategy, but that only applies to the game, not to real life. There is also a new family with a little girl named Cora who refuses to spend time with her stepbrother Finn because, according to her, they were much happier when it was just her and her father. After meeting them, we return to the damaged phone in the suitcase and can see that it is about to cause a fire, especially when the battery can no longer hold and bursts, burning everything around it and starting a fire in the cargo hold. At the same time, the little Finn worries because he does not see his parents, but it turns out they are in the bathroom, so he ends up walking through the whole plane until a boy named Matt offers him his tablet to play with. By that point, the fire is already clear in the cockpit, since the sensors have been triggered, and Ben starts the plan to turn on the extinguishers, but unfortunately, they fail. The protocol says they must turn immediately to the nearest airport, but that would be Guam, 400 nautical miles away, and it would take them too long. So for now, Rich decides to send the assistants down to the cargo bay to put it out directly. The problem is that the fire has already spread too far, and with the hand extinguishers, it is impossible to put out. On top of that, the fire has burned the security straps, and a huge box with luggage swings from side to side, causing an even bigger disaster. In a fraction of a second, a pair of tanks that were nearby burst and shoot out, tearing through the fuselage and causing decompression at high altitude. Some of these tanks hit people, and the couple that was in the bathroom ends up badly injured. Although Rich manages to bring the plane down to 10,000 feet, the hole in the fuselage is too big and keeps growing bigger with every second. At that moment, we can see the one responsible for all of this, the unpleasant man hiding in the bathroom smoking without caring about everything that is happening. A few seconds later, the full tragedy happens. The huge luggage box goes through the hole and crashes into one of the main engines, causing the plane to tilt and lose a lot of power. Now there is no chance they can reach Guam, and they will surely end up in the middle of the ocean. One of the flight attendants manages to find the man smoking in the bathroom and pulls him out, but as he walks to his seat, the plane suffers another decompression, and several people are sucked out to a certain death, including the annoying man who was sitting next to him. So getting up to smoke a cigarette has just saved his life, but that will not last long, because the overload on the second engine has made it overheat and lose power. Now they are basically gliding in a plane of 80 tons and with 257 souls on board. Rich does everything he can to restart the engine, but it is badly damaged, so he asks Ben to get rid of the fuel, since there is not enough time to climb again. In the last seconds, the captain talks to the crew and asks them to buckle up and prepare for impact. Once they manage to see the ocean, Ben tries to tell his partner that they must turn left, because they have to fly down parallel to the waves. But what worries Rich is the speed they are carrying. They are going too fast, and being parallel to the waves will not matter if they hit them at that speed. The team does everything possible to make the water, landing and go well, but a few seconds later, it turns out the water is not deep enough and the plane crashes against the reef, causing a great deal of water to come into the cabin, and the impact of the crash ends the lives of several passengers. Those who survive end up in the open sea, listening to the screams of the people who have been trapped in their seats, including Ben, who manages to free himself a few seconds later, but he can see how the glass of the cabin begins to break and he does not have enough time to get out of there. The rest of the passengers are scattered around the whole place, but fortunately, Cora is on a part of the plane that is still afloat, and, as impossible as it sounds, she is completely unharmed. Rich's leg is stuck and surely broken, because when they try to move it, he screams in pain, but the truth is staying here until the glass breaks, and they all drown. As the water begins to fill the aisles, we can see that many people will not get out of here alive, because many of them have ended up dead in their seats, with their spine broken. But Sam is still alive. The bad news is that he cannot find Lily anywhere. One of the most fortunate is Dan, the unpleasant man, who is still smoking, since that seems to be his answer to everything. As for Matt, he and Finn are fine, but they are on a part of the plane that is about to be completely flooded, and that rocks on the edge of a reef. Outside, in the middle of the ocean, we can see Lily trying to swim to one of the pieces that still floats, when something pulls her hard backwards, and out of panic, she does not notice what it is. She only tries to keep swimming until she is safe. Once she is on a huge floating piece, she discovers she has a bite on her leg, which means drowning is no longer the only way to die in this place, and they are not alone. Back in the cabin, Rich's leg is very injured, and Ben cannot free him, so Rich asks him to just leave him there. He will never survive if he cuts off his leg, and if Ben does not get out of the cabin, it will flood and drag everyone who is there. While Matt tries to climb up to keep the boy safe, they run into a flight attendant who throws them a flashlight and tells them to hurry, since the whole tail is swaying. With a look from the outside, we can see that the whole tail of the plane is right at the edge of the reef, and it only needs a small push to fall to the bottom, and that will be the end for everyone. At this moment, we go back to the couple we left in the bathroom, who against all odds are fine. But the husband opens the door, and a lot of water comes in from all sides. While they find a way out of there, we go back to Rich, who is saying his last words before the glass collapses completely and he ends up drowning. Back with Matt, the boy has managed to find a woman named Betsy, who is still alive, but the problem is getting her out, with her advanced age and the little time they have left. Looking at all the damage, Ben cannot begin to think about what he can do. The only thing on his mind is to check whether the transmitter went on with the impact, because if it did not, help will never come. The most important thing now is to get to the middle section to make sure that help will come, and Ben offers to swim there, but Penny tells him she is faster. She was champion 3 times, and he must stay here to try to rescue everyone he can. Ben gives Penny all the instructions and the exact position of the transmitter. She must make sure she presses the button and that the light stays on. Then Penny jumps into the water and starts swimming with all her strength, proving that she did not lie about her skills. Unfortunately, a few seconds after she gets into the water, Cora points out to Ben something that is happening very close by, because some sharks are devouring the body of a passenger, and that is not good news. Without wasting any time, Ben throws out the raft, the only one they have available, and starts rowing to catch up with Penny. But the bad news is that there is too much sharp metal around, and they have to be very careful, or the raft will break. By then, Penny has already stopped to catch her first breath and does not notice that there is something swimming very close to her. Right before Ben can reach her, a shark grabs her by the leg and drags her to the bottom. All that is left of Penny is a big stain of blood in the water, but that is not all. One of the sharks attacks again and rises above the surface, landing on the raft while trying to reach Ben with its teeth. The huge animal does irreparable damage to the raft, but at least Ben has managed to scare it off for now. Not far from there, the middle part of the plane still floats, but that will not last long, because when the compartments start to sink, everyone will end up in the water. Back at the tail, Matt, the old woman, the flight attendant, and the boy have managed to reach the top, but that does not change the fact that they are sinking, and if they open any of the doors, the water will get in. At every turn, the situation gets more complicated. They are running out of options. They can only swim to the surface or wait for the tail to rock enough to fall to the bottom. Sam tries to tell the group that there is too much weight in the front of the plane, but some of the people there do not believe he is smart enough to know that, and they make fun of him for not being a real athlete, since he spends his life on the computers. Above all, Hutch, who is the typical overconfident man full of bravado, thinks he is an athlete just for wearing sports clothes. The boys are about to fight, and one of the older men agrees with Sam. The weight is breaking the reef, and they have to spread it out. By then, the piece of metal where Lily was sheltering is already sinking, and she has no choice but to start swimming among the luggage to reach the middle of the plane. There she meets Sam, who is very happy to see her, but the old man who agreed with him a minute ago ends up being attacked by the sharks, and devoured right in front of Hutch, who cannot stop exploding with rage and blaming Sam for all of this. Hutch attacks Sam and blames him for the death of his best friend and the old man, hitting him again and again and telling him to get into the water because he deserves to die for what he has done. At that moment, Ben appears, and with a single punch, he puts the man in his place. While Ben gets everything under control, in the middle part of the plane, Matt has decided to risk swimming to the bottom and get out through a crack in the reef. From there, he only has to swim straight up to reach the surface, where he meets Cora's father, who begs him for help. But a second later, a shark attacks and devours him in front of the boy. At the same time, Ben has managed to get out the rest of the rafts and is starting to put the people on them, but Cora has decided to go alone into the flooded part to find her parents, and Ben has not noticed because he was fixing the emergency signal. The last raft is stuck, and Sam is the only one willing to go back and help Hutch, even after Hutch hit him. At that moment, Ben realizes that Cora is about to be devoured by a shark, and he runs to save her. But this causes the whole middle part to collapse, and the water to rush in with great force. In that moment of panic, Dan, who, as we remember, is the man who caused all of this, drops the emergency signal, and it sinks because he was more worried about getting on a raft and saving his own life. The last raft is left unopened, which means several people have been left floating among the luggage since the others are full. Even so, Sam manages to swim to Hutch, who took a strong hit, but he is still alive. When Ben manages to get back with the girl, he asks Dan where the transmitter is, and Dan can only point to the water, which makes Ben very angry because he has condemned them all with his selfishness. Ben manages to see Sam and Hutch floating in the distance and decides to go after them to save them. But Dan is against it. He tells them they are fine, and they do not need to risk themselves to save those two. Before Ben can reply, Dan punches him in the face and makes fun of him. This is the last straw, and Ben does not only return the punch with much more force, but he forces Dan to change rafts, or he will throw him into the ocean, where the sharks will surely teach him a lesson. Furious, Dan starts to say he will sue him and tries to change to the biggest raft, but the people do not let him and tell him to just keep quiet and stay calm, or they will carry out the promise that Ben made, because they know he is a coward who did not deserve to get out of the plane alive. The group begins to row as fast as it can toward the boys, who are trying not to panic, since at least 4 sharks are slowly surrounding them. Below, since Matt does not come back, the old woman begins to lose patience, and they have no choice but to start swimming. But the years do not forgive, and in the end, she only encourages Finn to reunite with his parents, because she has accepted her fate. Finn and Lexi start swimming down, following the same path that Matt used, but when they are about to reach the opening in the reef, Matt's body appears, and it has no arms and legs. Despite having taken the biggest scare of his life at such a young age, Finn manages to keep swimming, together with Lexi, reaches the surface. It is there that luck finally smiles on them, and they come up right next to the raft that was not opened, so they only have to pull the rope and they will have a safe place to wait for the rescue, which does not seem far away, since a few minutes later, a small plane begins to fly over, and the group does everything it can to get its attention, hoping it has seen them and will come back with more help. In that moment of hope, we go back to Finn, who is about to get on the raft when a shark appears and pulls Lexi off the ropes with great force. She manages to free herself and comes back to help Finn get on the raft, but the wound on her leg is very serious, and she is losing a lot of blood. So she uses her scarf to make a tourniquet, but a few seconds later, she loses consciousness, leaving the boy completely alone and scared as the sharks begin to hit the raft, trying to tear through the bottom. At that moment, Finn decides to do one of the most careless things of the whole movie. It is clear he is not a fan of shark movies, because he climbs onto the edge of the raft and stretches out to try to look down. With more than half his body in the air, it only takes a small push to make the boy fall into the water and be about to be devoured by a shark. And since his arms are weak and he is tired, he does not have the strength to get back up. Below, in the tail, Betsy has not had the courage to swim back, so a few minutes away from drowning, she decides to record a video message on her phone for her grandchildren so they can hear her last words, where she wishes them a wonderful life and promises them that she will be watching over and caring for them from above. When night falls, we can see a fishing boat pulling a big haul of fish out of the sea, but a few seconds later, a signal comes on the radio, and the US Coast Guard tells them that there has been an accident very close to their position, and they need their help to save the survivors. Back at the rafts, Ben is trying to get Cora to drink some water, but the girl is very sad, not only because of the loss of her parents, but because she blames herself for Finn, since she lied to him, and that is why they separated. Fortunately, a rescue helicopter arrives a few seconds later and fires half a dozen flares around them so the boat can find them. According to the rescue protocol, a rescuer must go down immediately to start taking them up one by one. But although everyone tries to warn them that there are sharks in the water, the soldiers do not understand them. So when the rescuer falls, a dozen sharks attack him from all directions, and the water fills with blood. By the time they manage to get him up, he is missing an arm and a leg, and he is in a state of shock. But that is not the worst of it. A huge shark leaps out and grabs the rescuer in the air, whose rope is still tied to the helicopter, and the weight is about to bring them down. What happens next is a complete tragedy, because the tail of the helicopter cannot handle the blow, and it breaks into 1,000 pieces, causing the helicopter to fall into the water and the rope tied to it to throw the rafts far away, spreading the survivors everywhere. Although the boat is only a few minutes away, chaos takes over everyone, and the last one to reach the raft is Dan, who, to save his own life, throws one of the flight attendants into the water, and she is devoured by the sharks. To his bad luck, the boat cannot get close to them because of the reef, so if they want to be saved, they will have to get there. But the raft is completely turned over, and they have lost the paddles. In addition, they cannot find Cora anywhere. After looking around, Sam manages to see her standing on a part of the fuselage, completely still and in a state of shock. The worst of all is that she is in the opposite direction of where the boat is, but Ben has no plan to abandon her, so he throws himself into the water and starts swimming. As Ben gets closer to Cora, we can see the sharks following him closely, and when he reaches the fuselage, it is very hard for him to climb up because it is slippery. Fortunately, Cora gives him a hand, and although she wants to stay there with her parents, Ben convinces her that she must be brave and ties a life jacket around her neck to drag her, while he swims with all his strength back to the raft. To help them, the fishing boat decides to get rid of all the catch, and that huge amount of fish and blood will surely attract the sharks, giving them enough time to survive. But one of the sharks stays to attack Ben. When it opens its huge mouth, our main character fires the signal gun and kills it instantly. It is at this moment that we see the huge number of sharks that was in the reefs, and if it had not been for the fish that the boat released, they would all have been devoured. Back on the raft, Dan is celebrating that he will be saved, and a few seconds later, he sees a pack of cigarettes in the water, so he stretches to reach it, but that turns out to be his sentence, because the sharks attack him right there and devour him from all directions. The group does not even lift a finger to save him, because they know he deserved it, and in the next scene, we can see all of them on the deck of the boat, after having survived the most dangerous situation of their lives. But Cora is still sad, because she has lost her whole family. But a few seconds later, the signal on the phones returns, and she thinks of a bright idea. Finn's mother forced him to keep an AirTag in his pocket, so after putting in the password, the phone tells her that her little brother is still alive and is very close. A short time later, the boat manages to find the raft, where they find Lexi and Finn still alive. Lexi tries to tell Ben that she promised Betsy she would come back for her, but he tells her that hours have passed and there is nothing left to do for her, and the suspense keeps rising. With all the passengers he could save on board, Ben cannot stop thinking about the one who needs him the most right now, and while he checks his phone, we can see that his son Sean is in the last stage of cancer, and with tears, he decides to call him to tell him that he is fine and that he is on his way home. The movie ends with a final scene of the boat heading towards the horizon, carrying with it the only 14 survivors of the 257 people who were on board the plane. The ending gives no rest.